Afghan illegal immigrants who raped a child in a park are living a life of luxury in a cushy youth prison. The two Afghans brutally dragged a 15-year-old girl into the bushes and raped her.
A British street erupted into chaos after a schoolgirl was reportedly attacked, and within hours the country felt the shockwave. Sirens screamed, shop fronts rattled, voices rose in anger and fear. What began as a single allegation exploded into riots, accusations, and a nation tearing itself apart in real time. Inside Whitehall, phones lit up. Inside newsrooms, editors froze. And across the country, one question burned hotter than the fires on the streets. How did Britain get here, and who lost control? The first reports landed like a punch to the chest. A young schoolgirl, uniform still on, allegedly assaulted in broad daylight. Two suspects described as illegal arrivals by witnesses and online accounts. Within minutes, the language hardened. Within an hour, the streets changed. Crowds gathered not to mourn, but to rage. Bottles flew, windows cracked, police lines bent under pressure. Social media exploded with fury, disbelief, and raw emotion. Parents clutched their phones in silence. Politicians scrambled behind closed doors. This was no longer just a crime, it became a symbol, a spark, a test of everything Britain claims to stand for. By nightfall, the situation collapsed into open disorder. Chanting mobs surged through high streets that only hours earlier were filled with school runs and shopping bags. Some shouted for justice, others screamed for revenge. The lines blurred fast. Peaceful protest melted into violence. Opportunists hijacked grief. Rage drowned out reason. Police commanders admitted they were stretched thin. Reinforcements rushed the edges of a community already on edge. The image flashed across the nation. A country arguing with itself, live on camera with no referee in sight. Inside government, panic spread. Emergency meetings were called. Ministers argued over words, not solutions. Should they condemn the violence first, or the alleged crime? Should they speak about borders or about law and order? Every sentence felt like a trap. Say too much and ignite more anger. Say too little and appear weak. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister's silence grew louder by the minute. Critics called it cowardice. Supporters called it caution. But on the streets, neither explanation mattered. People wanted answers now. The police confirmed an investigation was underway. They urged calm. They warned against speculation, but calm was already gone. Online clips, unverified and raw, circulated faster than facts. Faces were named before charges. Motives were invented before evidence. In this vacuum, trust collapsed. The public didn't know who to believe, the authorities urging patience or their own eyes watching their towns burn. And hovering over it all was the unspoken fear that this moment could change Britain forever. Parents asked if their children were safe, communities asked if they were being protected, and a darker question crept in, whispered at first, then shouted. Had the system failed so badly that the streets were now delivering their own verdicts? As dawn approached, the fires dimmed, but the anger did not. The country woke up to broken glass, viral footage, and a sense that something fundamental had cracked. But the most dangerous part wasn't the riot itself, it was what came next. Because when fear replaces trust and anger replaces justice, the consequences don't end overnight. They multiply, they spread, and they demand a reckoning. So now the question hangs heavy over Britain. Was this an isolated tragedy twisted by chaos, or the beginning of something far more explosive? By the next morning, the shock hardened into something colder and more dangerous. The country did not calm down, it braced itself. Streets reopened under a thin layer of normality, but the air felt different, heavier, as if everyone knew that this was no longer just about one incident. The headlines screamed. The radio phone-ins overflowed. At school gates, parents whispered instead of chatting, eyes scanning the road, phones clutched tight. What happened the night before was now being replayed, slowed down, argued over, and weaponized, frame by frame, word by word. And with every retelling, the story grew sharper, angrier, more unforgiving. Senior police figures stepped forward, faces tight, voices measured. Insisting that facts must come before fury, they confirmed arrests. They stressed that investigations were ongoing. They warned that spreading unverified claims could inflame tensions further. But outside those press conferences, the message barely landed. Too many people felt unheard for too long. Too many believed that truth only emerges after chaos forces it into the open. The phrase illegal arrivals echoed everywhere, repeated by commentators, shouted by protesters, condemned by others as reckless and dangerous. Language itself became a battleground, each word chosen like a weapon, each sentence capable of tipping fragile streets back into unrest. Inside Parliament, the atmosphere turned toxic. Emergency debates erupted, not with unity but with accusation. Opposition figures accused the government of losing control of the borders, of public safety, of the national story itself. Government ministers fired back, accusing critics of exploiting tragedy for political gain. The chamber shook with outrage, but outside people saw only paralysis. No clear message, no shared moral ground, just leaders talking past each other while communities burned. One senior MP was overheard saying this felt like a moment that defines careers and destroys them. Another warned that mishandling this could scar the country for a generation. The media storm intensified. Some outlets focused relentlessly on the alleged attackers, their status, their origins, feeding a narrative of invasion and betrayal. Others pushed back hard, warning that collective blame was poisoning the public mind, that mobs do not deliver justice, they destroy it. Panels shouted over one another. Experts contradicted themselves live on air. Trust in institutions wobbled further as viewers flicked channels, searching not for balance but for certainty. Social media became an accelerant, not a mirror. Clips without context went viral. Rumours spread faster than corrections. Anger found algorithms willing to reward it. On the streets where the riots had erupted, the damage told its own story. Burned bins, smashed shop fronts, graffiti screaming slogans about betrayal, protection and rage. Small business owners stood in silence, calculating losses they couldn't afford. Residents spoke of fear, not just of violence, but of being forgotten once the cameras moved on. Community leaders pleaded for calm, for dialogue, for restraint, but admitted privately that they had never felt such a deep fracture running through everyday life. This was not just anger at an alleged crime, it was anger stored up over years, suddenly given permission to explode. Behind the scenes, security services raised their threat assessments. Not because of one group, but because of the atmosphere itself. When trust collapses, extremism thrives. When institutions look weak, radicals move fast. Briefings warned of copycat unrest, of agitators travelling to flashpoints, of online calls to take matters into our own hands. The phrase sent chills through officials who understood its history. Britain had seen moments like this before, moments when restraint failed and consequences lingered for decades. Nobody wanted to say it out loud, but everyone felt it. This was a tipping point. And still, at the centre of it all, remained the unanswered questions about the original incident. What exactly happened? Who was responsible? What was fact? And what had been twisted by fear and fury? The schoolgirl's condition, her family's silence, the slow drip of official updates, all of it fed speculation. Some demanded instant transparency, others warned that rushing details could destroy lives and derail justice. The tension between speed and truth became unbearable. Every delay felt like a cover-up to some and a necessary safeguard to others. As night fell again, police prepared for another test. Barricades went up, patrols increased, helicopters hovered low, their noise a reminder that the state was watching, even if many no longer believed it was listening. The Prime Minister finally addressed the nation, calling for calm, condemning violence, promising justice. For some, it came too late. For others, it sounded hollow. The question wasn't what he said, but whether anyone still believed him. Because once public faith fractures, words alone cannot repair it. And looming over everything was a deeper, more unsettling fear. If one alleged crime could ignite this level of chaos, if one night could expose such raw division, what would happen next time? What would spark the next eruption? And when it comes, will Britain respond with law and unity, or with more fire, more mobs, and more silence from those meant to lead? By the third day, the country was no longer reacting. It was reckoning. The riots had slowed, but the damage had already sunk deep into the national psyche. This was no longer about burning bins or broken windows. It was about something far more uncomfortable. The feeling that the social contract itself had been stretched to breaking point. In towns far from the original flashpoint, people gathered in tense silence, watching events unfold as if they were previews of what might come next. Every siren triggered nerves, every rumour reignited fear. Britain was holding its breath, unsure whether the worst had passed or whether this was merely the calm before a wider storm. Behind closed doors, senior figures in government and security admitted what they would not say publicly. The response had been too slow, the messaging too confused.